What if I told you that the path to creating a legendary fantasy hero starts with breaking them? After 2 decades of writing and analyzing fantasy literature, I've discovered how many successful fantasy writers make their heroes so unforgettable. In this video, I'll reveal the secret techniques to transform ordinary characters into complex, multidimensional protagonists that captivate your readers' imaginations. I'll walk you through the psychology behind broken heroes, the delicate balance between strength and vulnerability, and how to craft character arcs that will transform your story. But first, I need to show you what it really means to cripple a character, and why this approach can be so powerful in creating truly memorable heroes. Imagine a hero in shining armor standing tall and proud atop a mountain, their sword gleaming in the sunlight. Now, picture that same hero stumbling, their armor dented and tarnished, barely able to lift their sword. Which one captures your attention? Which one makes you lean in, desperate to know more? In fantasy writing, crippling your hero isn't just about inflicting physical harm. It's about stripping away their greatest strength, exposing their vulnerabilities, and forcing them to confront their deepest fears. Think of Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. A brilliant strategist, often underestimated due to his physical nature and family conflicts. Or consider Vin from Mistborn, a street urchin with trust issues, thrust into a world of nobility and magic. These characters captivate us precisely because they are broken, flawed, and struggling against overwhelming odds. But why does this approach work so well? It's simple. Imperfection is relatable. When you cripple your hero, you create a bridge between them and your readers. You invite your audience to see themselves in your protagonist, to feel their struggles, and to root for their triumph. This doesn't mean your hero can't be extraordinary. In fact, it is their extraordinary qualities combined with their profound vulnerabilities that make them truly unforgettable. A master strategist paralyzed by indecision, a charismatic leader haunted by past failures, a powerful mage whose magic comes at a terrible personal cost. These contrasts create depth, intrigue, and endless storytelling possibilities. Crippling your hero isn't about making them weak. It's about creating space for growth, for overcoming, for transformation. It's about crafting a journey that will resonate with your readers, making them invest emotionally in a hero who feels as real and complex as they are. But with great power comes great responsibility. As I show you the art of creating flawed heroes, you must tread carefully. How do you ensure your portrayals are respectful and authentic, especially when dealing with real-world challenges? The answer lies in understanding the delicate balance between compelling storytelling and ethical representation. Imagine crafting a character you believe is deep and nuanced, only to realize you've unknowingly perpetuated harmful stereotypes. The backlash could be devastating, not just for your story, but for your growth as a writer. Consider the tale of a warrior princess, born with a limb difference, who becomes the realm's greatest archer. At first glance, it seems like a powerful narrative of overcoming adversity. But pause for a moment here. Are you defining her solely by her physical condition? Are you falling into the trap of inspiration porn, where characters with disabilities exist only to inspire able-bodied characters? The key is to dig deeper. This princess isn't great because or in spite of her limb difference. It's simply a part of who she is, like her wit, her temper, or her love for stargazing. Her story isn't solely about overcoming a disability, but about navigating a complex world of court intrigue and looming war. The bottom line of this is that your flawed heroes can grapple with mental health issues, physical conditions, or societal prejudice, but these should inform their character, not define them. Creating flawed characters that are ethically sound is only half of the battle though. The real magic happens when these imperfections resonate deeply with your readers. And to uncover that secret, I need to tell you a bit more about the minds of both the character and the reader. Imagine this, you're deep into a fantasy novel about Haldir, a pacifist elven healer sworn to preserve all life. For chapters, you've seen him risk everything to save even his enemies. But suddenly, you reach a scene where Haldir is faced with a choice between killing one to save many, and he plunges a dagger into an innocent's heart. You're stunned, conflicted. Just like Haldir, his action contradicts everything he believes. Yet, in this impossible situation, it's the only choice that really aligns with his ultimate goal of preserving life. That moment of shock, followed by this kind of understanding, that's the power of psychological depth. But how do you create these moments? Well, it all starts with understanding the concept of cognitive dissonance. This psychological principle explains why we as humans are drawn to characters whose actions contradict their beliefs or values. Cognitive dissonance is like having two different thoughts in your head that don't match up. Imagine you believe you are a kind person, but then you do something mean. Your brain feels uncomfortable because these two ideas don't fit together. The way your hero resolves this dissonance can become a defining character trait. Do they rationalize their actions? Change their beliefs? Or live with the guilt? Each choice opens up new avenues for character development and plot progression. But let's add another psychological tool on top of it, the fundamental attribution error. This is our tendency to attribute the actions of others to their character while excusing our own based on circumstances. Basically, we tend to cut ourselves a break while holding others 100% accountable for their actions, even in the same type of situations. Using this in your writing can create fascinating dynamics between characters. For instance, your hero might judge an antagonist harshly for a morally questionable action, only to find themselves in a similar situation later. How they reconcile this can be a powerful turning point in their arc. Psychology is just one additional piece of the puzzle though. To truly elevate your hero from good to unforgettable, I need to tell you more about the various types of limitations that can shape their crippled journey. First up, we have physical disabilities, of course. Imagine a skilled swordsman who loses his dominant hand. How does he adapt? Does he learn to fight with the other hand? Or does he discover an entirely new way of combat? Think of Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Her blindness isn't a weakness, it becomes the foundation of her unique and powerful earthbending style. Next, let's talk about emotional trauma. This invisible wound can be just as debilitating as any physical injury. Picture a once fearless warrior who now freezes at the sound of clashing swords, haunted by memories of a devastating battle. Or consider a charismatic leader crippled by the guilt of a decision that cost innocent lives. These emotional scars add depth to your characters and create internal conflicts that can drive your entire plot. Then we also have mental challenges. These can range from conditions like anxiety or depression to more fantastical ailments like a curse that clouds judgment or causes hallucinations. These mental hurdles create constant tension and opportunities for character growth. But don't overlook societal constraints either. These are the invisible chains that bind your character, limiting their choices and actions. Maybe your protagonist is a low-born peasant trying to save a kingdom that sees them as worthless. Or perhaps they are a noble, forced to hide their magical abilities in a world that persecutes magic users. Such limitations force your characters to be creative, to work within or against this system, adding richness to your world and depth to your story. And lastly, we have the loss of magical abilities or items. In a world where magic is power, what happens when that power is stripped away? Imagine a legendary wizard suddenly unable to cast even the simple spell, or a hero whose enchanted weapon, the source of their legendary status, is shattered. How do they adapt? Do they find new strength, or do they crumble under the weight of their new limitations? Each of these limitations opens up a world of storytelling possibilities. They force your characters to grow, to adapt, to become more than they ever thought possible. Now, if you found anything useful in the video so far, please consider giving it a like to help me grow the channel. Thank you. Moving on, you might be thinking now, great, I'll just pile on all these challenges and create the most broken hero ever. But here's the key. It's not about piling on misery for the sake of drama. It's about creating the right amount of internal and external conflicts to forge your hero into the stuff of legends. Picture this, a warrior undefeated in battle, feared across the land. Sounds boring, right? Now imagine that same warrior trembling at the sight of blood, haunted by an innocent life they've taken by accident. Suddenly we're intrigued. But here's where many writers go wrong. They stop there, thinking a flaw alone makes a character interesting. But the real magic happens when you pair that paralyzing fear with an unshakable sense of duty, for example. When that warrior, despite their terror, charges into battle to protect other innocents. That's the kind of hero readers root for. The kind they can't stop thinking about. But how do you strike this delicate balance then? How do you create characters that are both deeply flawed and incredibly compelling? Well, it all comes down to a simple truth that many writers overlook. Your character's greatest strength should be intrinsically linked to their deepest flaw. Let me show you what I mean. Remember Tyrion Lannister? His sharp wit is his greatest asset, but it's also what constantly lands him in trouble. Or think about Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. Her incredible intelligence and thirst for knowledge make her an invaluable ally, but they also lead to her being overly rigid in her thinking and sometimes unable to see beyond the rules and books she so heavily relies on. This connection between strength and weakness is what creates truly multidimensional characters. It's not about having a list of positive traits and negative traits. It's about creating a core character trait that is both a blessing and a curse. Let's take it even a step further. What if your character's flaw isn't just connected to their strength, but actually enhances their heroism? Imagine a peace-loving diplomat forced into a war. Their aversion to violence doesn't have to be a weakness. Instead, it could drive them to find creative, non-violent solutions that a warrior might overlook. You see, flaws don't necessarily diminish heroism. At times, they define it. True heroism isn't about being perfect or unbeatable. It's about facing your deepest fears, overcoming your most crippling weaknesses, and still choosing to do what's right. Now, another reason not to overdo it by piling up tragedies is the impact on your readers. Consider you're reading a story where the hero faces one crushing defeat after another. Their loved ones die, their kingdom falls, their powers fail them at every turn. How long before you as a reader give up in despair? How long before you start to wonder, what's the point of all this suffering? This is the tightrope every writer must walk. The delicate balance between darkness and light. But how do you strike this particular balance? How do you create a compelling narrative that doesn't leave your readers reaching for antidepressants? The answer here lies in understanding the ebb and flow of storytelling. Think of your narrative as a symphony. You need those low, somber notes to create depth, but without the high, triumphant crescendos, you're left with nothing but noise. Let's take a closer look of how this works. Imagine your hero beaten and broken at the lowest point. They've lost everything. Their powers, their allies, their hope. This is a crucial moment, but that's exactly where so many writers go on. They linger too long in this darkness, wallowing in the hero's misery. Instead, what if, in this moment of utter despair, your hero discovers an inner strength they never knew they had? What if they find an unexpected ally or uncover a hidden truth that changes everything? Suddenly, that moment of darkness becomes a turning point, a spark of hope in the gloom. This is the power of balancing darkness and light. Not about avoiding tragedy or sugarcoating your hero's struggles. It's about using those dark moments as a contrast, a backdrop against which moments of triumph shine even brighter. The key is to create a rhythm, a dance between struggle and success. Each setback should push your hero to grow, to adapt, to become more than they were before. And each triumph, no matter how small, should fuel their hope and determination to keep fighting. But this back and forth is also where many writers stumble as they try to create beautifully complex characters. And then nothing happens. Their characters remain static, unchanged by the trials they faced. What a waste. Imagine for a moment you're watching a master sculptor at work. He starts with a rough, unformed block of marble. With each careful strike of the chisel, each deliberate scrape, their figure within begins to emerge. This is exactly what adversity does to your characters. It chips away the unnecessary, revealing the hero hidden within. So make sure to understand the nature of your character's limitations. Are they grappling with a lifelong disability or facing a temporary setback? The answer to this question will shape the entire arc of the story. A character born with a physical limitation will have a very different journey from one suddenly injured in battle. The first might struggle with self-acceptance and finding their place in the world, while the latter grapples with loss and the need to redefine their identity. But be warned, such a transformation is rarely a straight line. It's a series of victories and setbacks, of triumphs and crushing defeats. Your character should stumble, should fall, and they should want to give up. And that's exactly what makes the eventual rise so satisfying. Remember, the most compelling character arcs are not about characters becoming perfect. They're about characters becoming whole. They're about broken heroes learning to not just survive with their limitations, but to thrive because of them. So as you plot your character's journey, ask yourself, how will each challenge shape them? What will they lose? And more importantly, what will they gain? Because in the end, it's not about what your hero overcomes, it's about who they become in the process. And in the case of characters who were crippled by an injury, we're faced with a variety of storytelling opportunities. So watch this video here next, where I show you the power of injuries and the pitfalls you want to avoid when using them.